Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Kuf Beis in Bava Kama, as we learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Nesim Matzar V'Shivya, and for Tamar Chana Bas Frida, which we'll say again tomorrow for Shlema. Now, write down halfway down the page. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mashvach. So Mishnah said that if you commission somebody dyer to make to color your garment red, and he did it black, or black and he did it red. So Rav Meir said it's like a goslin, and he's konet, and he just pays back for the wool. He acquires it. The dyer acquires it just like as if he stole it, and he pays back for the wool because shinu is kona. And even though this isn't a goslin, Rav Meir says the same thing applies. Rabbi Yehuda says no, doesn't apply at all. Rather, the person who changed the deal over here, what did he do? He didn't do what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to color it red. He colored it black, or black red. He has the disadvantage. He gets either the lesser of his expenses or the lesser of the improvement. He gets this. He doesn't get a choice. He gets the lesser of them or the lesser of his fee, whichever is lower. Now the Gemara brings down the following thing. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mashvach, Yosef Rav Yosef Achar Rav Abba. Rabbi Yosef was sitting behind Rav Abba. Sounds like, I think it was back to him. He was sitting behind him. And Kamed Rav Huna, and they were both in front of Rav Huna. And as Rav Abba was in front of Rav Huna, and he was listening to Rav Huna's lecture, and Rav Yosef was sitting, so to speak, like behind, the other way. Yosef Rav Huna was sitting. Rav Yehuda said two things. Halach Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Halach is like Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. We don't know yet what he's talking about. Halach Rabbi Shua ben Karcha in what sense? Who was Rabbi Shua ben Karcha? He was Rabbi Kiva's son, right? Rabbi Kiva was bald, so they called him Kareach or Karcha. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. He said the halach is, so Rav Huna said the halach is like Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Halach Rabbi Yehuda, halach is like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, now we don't know which. Obviously, we're correct about our Rabbi Yehuda and our Mishnah. But what's Rabbi Shua ben Karcha? What is that? We don't know yet. But Rabbi Yosef, now Rabbi Yosef, who overheard this, turned around and he said, Omar, I don't get it. Bishlam Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, Israel. I understand why he had to tell me the halach like Rabbi Shua ben Karcha is. We'll see the case in a minute. We haven't seen it yet. I might think I might think that since Rabbi Shua ben Karcha argues with a plural of people, and the rule is if one person argues with two or more, you usually go like, that's the rule of thumb, is you go by the Rabbim. Kamash malach yachid. The Kamash malach is like a yachid. In other words, I understand why Rav Huna had to tell us this is an exception to the rule, right? The exception always makes the rule. That normally yachid Rabbim Rabbim, and here the halach is like yachid like Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. I understand why Rav Huna had to say that. What's the case of Rabbi Shua ben Karcha? Mai, what's the case? The time of Rabbi Shua ben Karcha Omer. We learned in the beginning of Avodah Zarah, you remember that you're not supposed to do business with over the Avodah Zarah right before their Chag. Because if they make a profit on you, they're going to go and they're going to thank their God, and you cause them to pray, so to speak, to their God. Well, the same way, the Chacham say over there, if he owes you money or you owe him money, don't settle the deal before their Chag, because they'll go thank their God, either for receiving the money if you're paying him, or if he's paying you, he's happy to pay off the loan, tear up the mortgage, as they say. So the Chacham say don't do any business with them before their Chag. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha disagrees. He says, Milva b'shtein nefran, if it's a loan, an IOU, a written document, a proper loan, then they don't pay with them, because wait till after the Chag, otherwise they're going to go thank their God. Milva al peh, but let's say it's an outstanding loan that you have no paper on. It's simply an oral agreement. Now, the guy's willing to pay you, take the money. Maybe when you'll want the money later on after the Chag, Moshe Zichmach, as they say, go look for him. You're not going to find him. It's like saying, so if it's a milval pen from, you can get paid even for the Chag. They should come out somewhere. It's like saving the money. You don't know if you're going to get paid. If you have nothing on him, it's just a word of mouth. He may deny it. So Rav Shua ben Karcha says there, you know what? Even before their Chag, if it's an oral loan, you can collect that. Okay. So Rav Huna says Rav Shua ben Karcha. You might think the halach is like the Chacham because they disagree with him, and it's Yachad Rabbim, Malach Rabbim. Kamashma, this is an exceptional case. Halach Rabbi Yehuda, halach Rabbi Yehuda is our Rabbi Yehuda in our case, where Rabbi Yehuda said that if the dyer didn't follow the instructions and he made it red instead of black or black instead of red, that he has the lower hand, meaning he has the disadvantage. He can either get the lower of his fee, the lower of the improvement, either whatever's lower, his fee, the improvement, or his expenses. You give him the list amount. What do I need it for? It's a machlokis in our Gemara, and afterwards there's a stam. The rule is if the same machlokis is brought down twice in Shas. If it's machlokis brought down first and later on it's brought down as an anonymous Mishnah, meaning one opinion only. So the halacha is like the stam. In other words, there was first a discussion about it in the yeshiva, and later on they decided that this is the halacha. So here, why did Rav Huna have to tell me? I understand Rav Yehuda had to tell me the case of the Avodah Zarah, that because they're yachad b'rabim, halacha k'rabim, kamashmon. This is an exception, and halacha like Mishum Makach, even though he's a yachad. But over here, why do you have to tell me that halacha like Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah? Why do you have to tell me that? It's a machlokas v'chastamu. Machlokas v'chastam, halacha kastam. The halacha is always like a stam. If there's a machlokas first and later on it's a stam, it's a stam. Machlokas babakama. The machlokas here is an our babakama. The Gemara we had the other day on what? Kuf Amid Beis on Shabbos is Daf. That's the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chacham and Rav Meir, right? And Litzbolo Adam Mitzav of Shachar. He quotes it now. He commissioned him to dye it red, and he dyed it black. Shachar Mitzav Adam. Rav Meir Obenoslan made some says you pay for the tzemer, right? You pay the tzemer because it's like he stole it, meaning he acquired it by changing. That's Rav Meir Shita. Rav Yehuda, no, he doesn't acquire it. The dyer doesn't keep it, but he gets paid the lower of either his expenses or the improvement. If the shvach is more, you give him only the expensive. You see, give him the lesser. And of course, if his fee was even less, you gave him just the fee. Why give him any more than that? This stam b'matzia, later on b'matzia, which follows Baba Kama, there is a stam mission that Tanan, kol mishana yado al taftana. Listen, whoever changes the deal, right? Whoever changes the deal, meaning whoever doesn't follow the instructions, like this case here, instead of dyeing it red, he dyed it blue, black, or whatever. Whoever retracts on a deal, also yado al taftana. So there's a stam there. So why did Rav Huna have to tell me lachas Rabbi Yehuda? Obviously, lachas Rabbi Yehuda. It's a machlokas here, and it's a stam later on. Rav Huna, what was so? Why did Rav Huna have to tell us that the lachas Rabbi Yehuda? It's no. He had to tell me lachas Rabbi Yehuda. Why is that? Amina ain't seder lemishnah. Say machlokas v'chastam is if you know first there's a machlokas and there's a stam, so you pass like the stam. But how do you know what the order is? Maybe there's no seder the mishnah. Maybe the later mishnah was really learned first. The stam machlokas and it's a stam machlokas, and you wouldn't know what the halacha is. But Yosef, if that's the case, kol machlokas v'chastam they may say to the mishnah. Why say every time you say it's a stam machlokas? Why say it's a stam machlokas? Maybe there's no order in the mishnah, and the stam was first, and the machlokas was later. Rav Huna says no. Kilo mean an ain seder mishnah. When don't we say ain seder mishnah b'chada masechta? In one masechet within the same masechet, there we don't say ain seder mishnah, but there is a seder to the mishnah. Aval betray masechta samrina. In other words, Rav Huna says, yeah, the ain seder this that we say that it's machlokah chastam, and we don't say ain seder mishnah, but rather we say there is a seder to the mishnah, and it's in the same masechta. But over here, it's two masechtas. One's bava kam, one's bava matzia. So between bava kam and matzia, you're going to say the next line. I know you're going to say, right? Between sections we say ain seder l'mishnah. That's why Rav Huna had to say the halacha is like Rav Yehuda, because it's not clear that it's a machlokas v'chastam, because the machlokas is in Babakama and the stam is in Bamatzia, and therefore ain seder l'mishnah. Rav Yosef, who said, "What did you have to tell me this for? It's a machlokas v'chastam. You don't have to tell me lachas Rabbi Yehuda. Of course, it's lachas Rabbi Yehuda because the stam mishnah in Bamatzia is Rabbi Yehuda, and it's a machlokas v'chastam. You'll tell me it's two different mesechtas, and between two different mesechtas there is no order. Rabbi Yosef, kol nezikin k'chad mesechti. All of nezikin babakam bamatzia b'asra, which is each one of them has 10 prakim. This has 10 prakim, then 30 prakim total. It was originally mesechtas nezikin. They split it up into 3. It's one mesechta, and therefore there is an order. So Rabbi Yosef maintained there is an order here. In babakam bamatzia b'asra is all one mesechta. There is an order, and therefore it's a machlok v'chastam, and therefore it's obvious. What do you have to tell me this for? But Rav Huna held no, that it's like 3 separate mesechtas, and therefore there's no order between them, and therefore it could have been that it's a stam b'akach machlokas. Therefore, he had to tell me the lochas like Rav Yehuda. B-boy saying, well, I'll tell you the reason. It could very well be that there is no order to the Mishnah. Right? It could very well be that there is no order, but I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you why we know that. That why did he have to tell me that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, right? Like Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Mishum dektani gabi because it was listed by a definite halacha. There is no machlokas about that. Kol mashani yodot tachton is our machlokas between Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda. If you retract on the deal, you're at the disadvantage. I'll explain what that case is. But since that case, there's no machlokas about, so it's a definite halacha. And since kol mashana yodot tachtona, this machlokas between Rav Yehuda and Rav Meir was listed right next to that one of kol chozer b'yodot tachtona, that's how we know that that's definitely the halacha. So whatever the order is, even if you say that it's a stam vachkach machlokes, right? That it's a stam vachkach machlokes. Why? Because there's no order to the Mishnah, or even if you say there is an order, but in this case maybe it's we don't know, right? We don't know. So you can tell the reason is that, in other words, he had a stronger reason for it. Hach stam avada iker. The stam is vada iker. Even if you say that maybe it's a stam vachkach machlokes because we don't know what the order is. And that's what his point is, that it's like one big, how do I know that this is the rule? Because it's listed right next to that halacha. Chalachos b'yodot tachtona is a case like this. Gemara there says in Bamitzia, a seller and a buyer. The seller sells him a piece of land for $1,000, and he put down $200. The buyer gave him $200 so far. Now the buyer goes back on the deal. He doesn't want to pay the other $800. So it's up to the mocher. The mocher could either give him his $200 back, or he can give him a piece of land worth $200, right? It's up to the mocher. If the other way, let's say the mocher retracted. After he got $200, says, I don't want to go ahead with the deal anymore. Then it's up to the lokeach. The lokeach could say, I either want my $200 back or I want a piece of land equivalent. In other words, whoever goes back on the deal has the disadvantage. He has what we call the lower hand. Now we're going to get into a more of a little bit complicated case. A man has an agent, a shliach, and he gives him money to buy merchandise, and they'll say, we'll go 50-50. Here's some money. Here's $1,000. Go buy some merchandise and sell it. It's my money. You're playing with my money. So you have for your effort, you'll get 50%, and I'll get 50% because I'm putting in the money. That's usually what they have when people are partners. One person is putting in the expertise and the effort, the other guy's putting the money. And then when they fight a week or two later, they go to court, whatever. When it blows up, you know what happens. Okay. So he gave the shliach $1,000 to buy some wheat. And he bought barley instead. He changed the instructions. Again, this is what's related to our case where you were told to do one thing, he did something else, right? Or he told him to buy barley, he bought wheat. One brisa says, in pirso lo, in mosiro hosiro lo. You know what? The shliach didn't follow the instructions of the owner, we'll call him the investor, the balabayas. Therefore, he effectively has stolen it. And if he loses money now on the deal, $1,000, barley, he bought the wrong thing, and he loses money, it's his loss. He's got to give the guy back $1,000. If he gains, it's also his gain. In other words, effectively, we're saying is that he took the $1,000, he's got to return the $1,000. He bought the wrong thing with it. If he made money, that's his advantage. If he lost money, he lost money. It sounds like Rav Meir, right? That you made a change, you get to keep it. Yeah.
Not shoot.
Pardon?
They're not shooting.
They are effectively shutfin. Well, the intention was that they would be shutfin, but not that they put in the money. The deal was that it's my money and we'll split the profits. So but the shliach was acting as an agent, but now he didn't listen to the instructions of his balabayim. So the first brisa says, you know what? Deal's off, so to speak. I gave you money to do this. You didn't follow the instructions. I want my money back. And whatever you did, you lost. It's your loss, your gain. Whatever you do with the thing that you bought. That's the first brisa. But Tanichad, another brisa said, in pirso lo, if there's a loss, the agent, the shliach, has to take the loss, meaning he's got to pay back the $1,000 to the owner. The mosiro sir lemsa. But if he made money, they split it. Mosiro lemsa goes in the middle. They split it. Now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, how do you resolve these two brises? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, very simple. Lokasha, Rav Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. The first one goes like Rav Meir, who says when you didn't follow the instructions, you painted it blue instead of red, or red instead of blue, or black, or whatever. You keep it now. Just give me back my wool. You owe me the $1,000 back. You owe me the wool back. It's yours now. Rav Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. And the other one goes like Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you change the instructions. You get the disadvantage, but it's still mine. You didn't acquire it now. Rav Meir, guy said, Rav Meir damashini kona. Again, you made a change in it. You acquired it. You changed the instructions. It's yours now. I want my money back. He goes, oh, shinui. And it's not, we're not talking about a gossip. We're talking about an agent over here. or a person who's commissioned to do something. He says Shinu ain't a Kohen. He doesn't acquire. Okay, but how the question Maskal Rav Lazar Mimai, how do you know? Still Ma'adkan lo Komer Rav Meir. How do you know that one's Rav Meir and one's Rav Yehuda? Maybe they're both Rav Meir. Adkan lo Komer Rav Meir meaning Chazal Gufe. Where did Rav Meir say that if you made a change in it, it's yours. I don't want it back anymore. Something that's for myself. I have a woolen. I have some wool over here. I'd like it black. I don't want a red one. You painted it red. It's yours now. It's on me. You give me back my wool, right? There, when you made it for some, or I gave you some wood, and I wanted a desk, and you made a table out of it. You made a chair out of it for my own purposes. I don't want it. It's yours, right? You made a change. You keep it. But over here, he gave him the money to make money. He cares about barley or wheat. He gave him some money to do business. So what does he care? Lo Omer there, he says maybe he doesn't care. Maybe the owner who gave him the money says, I don't care. Okay, he bought the wrong thing. Fine. I want to make money anyway. What's the difference? Maybe Rav Meir's not, doesn't say over there that the guy who made the change acquires it now and any loss or gain is his only. Maybe he didn't say that. Elom Rav Lezer, Hava Rav Meir. Both cases are Meir. If he told them buy wheat because I want to eat the wheat, I want wheat. I don't want barley. Barley's for animals. I want wheat or for cholent and stuff like that. People eat that stuff, right? I want wheat. I want nice, good bread, right? If he bought it for food, if he bought it for food and you made a change, then I don't want anything. I don't want it back. But if he bought it for doing business, he doesn't care so much. So, okay, yeah, you don't say, oh, you bought the wrong thing. It's yours now. I want my money back. No, he doesn't care. As long as the guy can make money with it, he doesn't care that much. So maybe they both go like Rav Meir. That's what Rav Elazar says. Now, Rav Yochanan, though, didn't say that, right? What did we say? Rav Yochanan, and the fifth line on this page, Rav Yochanan said, no, one goes like Rav Meir, one goes like Rav Yehuda. Rav Meir is the one who says what? That if you made a change, it's yours. You bought it, it's yours now. Any gain or loss is yours. I want my money back. And the other one who says, well, if there's a loss, then the shliach has to gate it. But if there's a gain, you split it. Now, the problem with Rabbi Yehuda us now is that the way Rabbi Yochanan interprets Rabbi Yehuda is that Shinu is not Kona. Right? That the fact that he made a change does not mean that that's the agents, it's the shliachs now. It still belongs to the owner, right? But he gets to split the profits, but not the losses. Okay. So Machla Marava and Eretz Yisrael, they laughed at Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda. They asked Rabbi Yochanan, or sheyakne chitin, maybe there should be lebal mos. In other words, what's going on over here? If you say, listen to me carefully, if you say, like Rabbi Elazar, who says both go according to a mayor, who says what? That she needs Kona. She needs Kona when you didn't follow the Valvaisa's instructions. He wanted to buy it for food, and you didn't do it, so it's yours now. You acquired it. If it's for business, okay, then he doesn't mind. Just do some business with it. Okay. So in the case of business, the shliach is still doing work for the owner, right? Doing work for the owner. But if it's for food, he's not working for the owner, so he acquired it on his own. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says what? The second brisa, which says that if there's a loss, then the shliach has to bear the loss. But if there's a gain, they split it. So what does that mean? They split it. If Shinu is not Kona, that means it still belongs to the original guy. But if he didn't follow the instructions of the owner, if the agent bought the wrong thing, he didn't do his shlichus. If he didn't do his shlichus, how does the owner who gave him the money acquire the barley, let's say, to split the profits? He didn't acquire it. Take a look, right? Again, the Gemara says, how did according to Rabbi Yehuda, the way Rabbi Yochanan interprets him, how did the owner acquire it? See, if the shliach did it on behalf of the owner, he says, go buy $1,000 worth of barley or wheat, whatever. Okay, he followed his instructions. He's doing it for the owner. But if he didn't follow his instructions, and you say Shini is not Kona, so how does the owner acquire it? Take a look at Rashi when the lines get narrow. Mio Dio, the second line there. How do you know that the owner of the wheat who sold it to him, the seller of the wheat, sold it to the guy with $1,000 to the balabais? That he's happy with anything that he sold. Lav Mishan, he's not changing because originally the balabais covered because the owner who gave him the $1,000 is happy with everybody. Okay, I wanted him to buy wheat, but he bought barley. As long as he can make money, I don't care. But Kani Balamos, and the guy who gave the money, the $1,000, Maslas Schar is fine. He's a partner, like you say, in the stuff that he owns it. They split it. They split the profits both ways. According to Yochanan, Mishanahu. Rabbi Yochanan says he changed the instructions, but for law of shlichus, it's not. So he's not a shliach. If he changed the instructions, in other words, I gave you $1,000 to buy wheat, and you bought barley, so you're not my shliach anymore. You didn't do the right thing. But she's not kona. So why? Right? How could he give it to him? Who did the owner who sold it? How did he give it to this other guy? The guy didn't do a shlichus. Hello, kaninu balamos me'olam. How does the owner, the guy who gave $1,000, how does he split the profits? He never acquired it because the guy who bought it didn't do his shlichus. So how did he get it? He didn't acquire it. See, the guy who gave him the money, the shliach. Okay, so he has the money. So the owner, the seller of the wheat, sold it to this guy, to the shliach. But how did the mishaleach, the guy who sent $1,000, how did he acquire it? The other guy wasn't doing his shlichus. So according to him, it didn't make much sense. According to him, the way Rabbi Lezer interprets it, that they're both according to Rav Meir. But in one case, where he bought it to eat, so he didn't follow his shlichus, and therefore it's totally the shliach's. The shliach has to pay him back $1,000, and any loss or gain is the shliach. And in the case where he bought it for business, he didn't mind him. So the shliach is doing the mishaleach's bidding. Shliach shalom kamosa, right? If it's not necessarily doing an aveira, if I send somebody to Mekadosh Nisha, he can act on my behalf. If I tell him to buy something, he can act on my behalf. But here, so you could, according to Meir, he did act on his behalf for business. He did act on his behalf. But according to the way Rabbi Yochanan explains it, according to Yehuda, he didn't follow his instructions, so he's not my shliach. So how did I acquire it? Maskul Rav Shmuel Bar Sarti, yes, on that nami lo. So what do you mean? So even if he told him to buy chitin and he bought chitin, how does the seller give it to the mashaleach? That's not a kasha. Shiny chitin the shliach is a covenant. He's doing a shlichus. If I send somebody to buy wheat from me, I give him $1,000, and the guy acts on my behalf. Even if the seller does not know who he's acting on whose behalf, but he's doing my shlichus, that's okay. And he's like the balabais. So if I send somebody to do something, it's like he's doing it. It's like I'm doing it. Teda, how do we see this? If a person gives all his assets to the base mikdash, or he gives his value, the value the Torah says, if you're whatever, between 20 and 50, it's 60 shekels, a certain amount for everybody depending on their gender and their age. And when he gives all his assets to the Beis Hamikdash, he doesn't own his family's assets, not his wife's garments, not his children's, lo betzeva lishman, or any dyed garments that were dyed for them. And even if he just bought them new shoes recently, he can't give them lishman. Well, how do you know? How do you say, that he gives all his assets? The assets of his children, his wife and children aren't included. How do you know? How did his wife acquire her dyed garments? Or how did the children get it? Did he let the dyer know that it's for his wife or it's for his children? Who told the dyer that he should give it over, that he should give it an acquisition to the wife or to the children? He's doing the shlichus for his family. That's not a kasha. So where he followed his instructions, he said buy wheat and he bought wheat. Okay, so he followed his instructions. The seller doesn't have to know who it was for. He follows instructions. In other words, in a case where a man sends somebody to Mekadosh Nisha, so obviously he should send Mekadosh you for, like Eliezer the Eved told him, I'm marrying you, marrying Rivka off to my master Yitzchak, right? You have to tell him. But in a case like this, where he sent him to buy something for him, he doesn't have to tell him shliach something also. Amar Baba, that's not a kasha. Lo, that's not a proof from there. Why? Lo, that's different. That's not because the children. You want to say that's a proof that shliach shalom kamoso, basically, I don't know you shliach kamoso, but the idea is that he doesn't own this because. The idea is that the seller or the person who's giving it over to somebody else is only acting on the instructions of the person giving it to him. Rabbi says that's no proof from there because they're called makdish when you give him a chasam, it's not because you can't be makdish the assets of your children because they have acquired them already on their own, but rather because when you're makdish your assets, you're not thinking about the assets of your wife and children. Maskul of Zera, why does it be a chidash learn about tefillin? There's a tefillah, if a person makdish everything, does he's thinking about his tefillin? And it's not a makdish l'chassid. If you're makdish all your assets, malum no tefillin, you have to assess the value of his tefillin too. He meant to give his tefillin also, even though was he not thinking about it. So you see that it doesn't depend on what your thoughts are. If you gave everything, you gave everything. Elamai, why isn't your wife's stuff included? Because she acquired it separately. Amalei Abaya, no, ain't that just a person doesn't want to give his tefillin, right? Why? Because a makdish l'chassid savar mitzvah. You think he's doing a mitzvah, so therefore he's thinking yes, a mitzvah to give my tefillin to the Beis Hamikdash too. That's why his tefillin belong to the Beis Hamikdash, where you assess them and he has to borrow money against them and give that money to the Beis Hamikdash, right? So it's different because you're makdish on the chasam, you meant even to give your tefillin, but ain't that just ishto avana b'shemeva. But a person doesn't want to give his wife and children's clothing away because of it'll cause fighting in the family. You want to give your own stuff on, but you can't give them. So maybe it's not because whoever dyed the clothes for them, or whoever made the shoes for them, whoever meant to give it to them, simply because your das is not to give it and not to give your family's assets to the Beis Hamikdash.
Two different cases.
Which two?
One is when he's makdish
right.
the clothes,
right,
and one is he's makdish the value of the clothes.
No. So okay. So that's a good point. But here he didn't say that. He said kol makdish l'chasim, his actual assets. He's makdish l'chasim. In the case of the tefillin, we can, like, he's poted the tefillin for money, borrows money, and he's poted the tefillin, but he has to give this, get the same thing. And you could argue, even if he has to give the value, but the only way he's going to get the value is by selling them. So either way, they get taken away. But in the case of the family, but the point, why aren't your family's assets included? Is it because when you acquired them, the person who sold them to you actually gave it to the wife and children, or is it because you weren't thinking about it? We're saying because you weren't thinking about them, you're not thinking about including them. Maskul Rav Oshia, below chai be'erechen. What about chai be'erechen, where you're giving your own asset, your own value? Shanokan. So we take a pledge from him. If he doesn't give the 60 shekels or whatever, you take it away from him. Is that what you're thinking? Would a person want to do that? So it doesn't depend on, in other words, it doesn't necessarily depend on his das, because if it's on his das, a person wasn't thinking that didn't have in mind that they should take a pledge from him if he can't pay right now. When you're makdish your assets, it's as if you meant to give your wife and children's assets away before you went to do that. That's why it doesn't work over. That's the svara for it over here. So it's not necessarily a proof to the original idea. The original idea was that if I tell the guy to buy chitin and he buy chitin, he's doing my shlichus, and therefore I acquired it. But if I told him to buy wheat and he bought barley, or vice versa, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that the shinu is not kona, but he was mashana, so he's not doing the shlichus. So how does the original owner get to keep half of the profits? He doesn't own it really. That was the point that they raised against Rabbi Yochanan. Tana Rabbanim. Okay, so it's maybe not necessarily a proof from this case of being makdish nechasim to this concept, but the concept still is there, that if I tell somebody to buy wheat and he buys wheat, he's doing my bidding, and therefore it's like I did it. Tana Rabbanan, lokech sada b'shem chavero. Listen to this case. I bought a field in somebody else's name. I meant to buy it for myself, but I put it in somebody else's name. Ain't kofan aslam kur. You can't force the other guy to sell it to him, so to speak, to give him another star that's written over to him. In other words, Reuben is buying a field, and from let's call it a lokeach and a mocher. Lokeach is buying a field from a mocher, but he says put it in Yankel's name. I want it in Yankel's name. Can you now force Yankel to give him another star to give it back to him? Now, we'll see what's the case in a minute. We're going to explain the case. And he said, I'm only buying it on the condition that he's going to give me such a star. Then kofan aslim kor, you can force him to sell, meaning the mocher sold it to Lokeach. The Lokeach gave him money, the mocher gave it to him. But can you force the other person, Yankel, to give him a star that effectively says that he sold it to the Lokeach to really put up the money? My comer, what is this weird case? Sometimes you buy a field in the name of the king, the exilarch, the top honcho. Never. Why? Because if people know it's the Reish Galusas, they won't contest it. They'll say, "Oh, you're not going to start up with him." So sometimes you want to buy something, you want it, I have the president's pardon?
Tax groups.
Why he's exempt from taxes?
No, I mean, if you sell it in somebody's name, you don't get taxed on that property.
He's not selling, he's buying it now. He's buying it to keep. He's buying it to keep. And
Really?
yeah, so the other guy will have to pay taxes. That's what you're saying.
No.
No, he's not talking about that. Yeah, no, the Gemara is the head tax, not the Gemara that we have anyway. But so once again, Michael, again, the Lokech bought a field from the Mocher, bought it for himself, but he put it in the name of the Reish Galusa. Ain't Kofanos or Rosh Galusa. You don't force the Reish Galusa. You can't force the Reish Galusa now to turn around and sell him a document. In other words, what is he doing this for? I want a document that the Reish Galusa bought it, so nobody will fight me with it. But I want Reish Galusa also to give me a document that he sold it to me, so there's no fights, in case I die or the Reish Galusa dies, or the children will come and say, hey, that's their field. So you can't force them unless that was the original deal. Now, even if it's the original deal, you might say, what does Reish Galusa have to do with this, right? Because I'm not writing any documents. What are you getting me involved for? We'll get to that. The Imam Al-Manaskan, again, Reish Galusa ain't Kofanos, you can't force Reish Galusa. The Imam Al-Manaskan, if you tell him Al-Manas, if you say Al-Manas, then Kofanos Reish Galusa, and then you force Reish Galusa to sell it back to him. But he really bought it for himself. He just wanted it. He wanted some strength. He wanted to have a cushion in there and say, look, somebody else, look what it belongs to. Amar Mar. Let's understand. So you bought the field in the name of Reish Galusa, ain't Kofanos, so Reish Galusa Limkor. You can't force the Reish Galusa to sell it back to him. I mean, you really bought it for himself, but you can't force the Reish Galusa to write a document selling it to him. Mechlal the Miknekonelek, smash for the woe that he really bought it. That who bought it? That the Lokech bought it. What happened? The Lokech goes to the Mocher and says, I'm buying a field to the Reish Galusa. Okay? So he says, you know what? You can't force the Reish Galusa to write him another document. Because Reish Galusa could say, I don't want to get involved, unless that was the original contention. We'll see. That also doesn't make sense. Even if you made that part of the deal, why should the Reish Galusa listen to that? Okay, but the idea is that the Lokech actually bought it, though. Even though he said it, he bought it for himself. He acquires it, even though he bought it apparently in the name of the Exelog. How did he acquire it then? If he goes to him and says, I'm buying this for the president, so the guy's selling it to the president. He's not selling it to him. How did he acquire it? This disagrees with the name of Rava that we said before. We said before, according to the way Rabbi Yochanan interprets the second brisa, that it goes according to Yehuda, that he didn't follow his instructions, but yet the shliach is not kona. So how did the balabais inquire? If he's not a shliach for him, again, the balabais was sent $1,000 with the shliach, and he bought barley instead of wheat, right? So he said over there that if there's profits, they split it. If there's a loss, then the shliach has to take the loss. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, that the shliach doesn't acquire it, but he didn't also do his shlichus. So if he didn't do his shliach, how did the mashaleach acquire it? That's what they said. The neighbor Rava said, who told the seller of the wheat, said he should give the chit to Balbais. Balbais was in the bill. Over here also, why do you say over here that this disagrees with it? Because here you said that when you bought a field for the exilarch, you get to keep it. His only issue is you can't force maybe the exilarch to give you a document that it really belongs to you, that he sold it to you. But you really acquired it. If you told the mocher, you told the seller, Lokech told the seller, I'm buying it for the exilarch. So how did he acquire it? How did he acquire it? The mocher didn't sell it to Lokech. He sold it to the exilarch. So this disagrees with whatever Rabbi said. Who told him to do it? It's mashma. You don't have to tell him. That's not a kasha. He told the Baal. He told the owner. The Lokech goes to the owner and said, listen, I'm buying a field for myself, but let's put down that I'm selling that. You're selling it to the exilarch. Tell it to him so people won't fight with me over this piece of land. They'll say, that belongs to the exilarch. They won't fight with me. He let the Baal Sada know. He let the witnesses know too. There were witnesses that saw the transaction take place and signed on it. He let them know. So that's not a kasha. He says, how did the Lokech acquire it? Didn't he buy it for like? No. He told them, I'm buying it for me. Just put down the exilarch. Elay Masefa. This is how you should ask the kasha. So that's not Elay Masefa. But the argument that Bnei Merava had maybe is a good argument. If the shliach is not doing the bidding of the mishaleach, how did the mishaleach acquire it? Elay Masefa. Here's the kasha. If he says, I'm buying it for the exilarch on the condition that the exilarch will give me another document, saying that it really is mine, that he's selling it to me. I'm buying it from you. You're getting your money. You're happy. But the document that you're giving me says that you're selling it to the XLR, but I'm running on the condition the XLR is then going to tell me the Reish Galus is then going to write another document to me. Am I? Why should Reish Galus get involved? So, I don't want your compliments. I don't want your compliments that you're giving me a piece of land, and I also don't want your insults that I'm now a real estate broker over here. You know, I'm an important man. Don't call me a real estate tycoon. So, what do I have to get involved with here? If I bought the field from the ex, like I'm buying it on the condition, if I buy it on the condition that the Reish Galusa has to give me a document, then he has to give it. Why does he have to give this? What do you give me? If somebody buys a field in my name and says, by the way, give me another document, I don't have to get involved. So you buy a field in the guy's name, in the ex-lux name. Ain't kofanas samocher. You can't force. In other words, he wants two documents. I want two. I'm buying a field from you. I want two bill. Can you give me two invoices? One that it's written to the ex-lark's name, the ex-lark's name, so fine, and give me another document that it's written over to me, so that the Reish Galus actually won't take it away, won't confiscate it from me. You know, give me two documents. You know. Huh?
Which one?
Right. They won't take it.
Which one?
He wants both. He wants one, just a fake, just to show that people will say, it's like, but he wants the real one for himself. He can't say after, I bought it. He buys it for in the name of the XLR. He buys it in his name. Tells him it's really for me, but buying the Reish Galus. Then afterwards, he says, by the way, give me after he's the deal. He says, give me another document that it's written to me. Can't force him to do that. If he said, if he says, I'm only buying it on a condition that I get two bills of sale, one for him, a fake, just that they shouldn't fight with me. Then you would force him to do it. If he bought it on that condition. Now the Gemara is going to ask a little bit more, isn't it obvious? The Gemara is I think, we'll talk about more of this case tomorrow. We'll start from the top because we have to stop here now. But that's the case over here. So what's the final case is this? He goes to a guy, he goes to the Lokekos and says, I want to buy the field for myself, but please put it in the name of the Reish Galusa. Okay. And then afterwards, but it's for me. Then afterwards, he says, by the way, can you give me another document, another bill of sale, like saying that it's mine? Doesn't have to listen to him. But if he tells originally, he says, listen, I'm buying it under the condition that you give me one fake bill of sale that it's next, and one for me, then he can force him to do it. Otherwise, it's not a good sale. All right, we'll pick it up from Amar Mar tomorrow, continuing just explaining the last details of this case. Third line tomorrow, Mitzvah.
Problems with